r/AskReddit by Redmond Dtes. What's the worst nice guy experience you've ever had? Lost one of my friends on a crazy night out in an unfamiliar city. Not picking up her phone. We looked for her for over an hour in a half-mile radius. Finally we got a call from a nice guy from the bar, who allegedly saw her wandering alone and had brought her to his apartment, had her phone blowing up, and called me back. She was indeed asleep on his couch. We thanked him, packed her up, and went on our way. A couple days later, he called me again to ask me on a date. I politely declined. I had a boyfriend at the time, but would have said no regardless. That was apparently unacceptable, and he told me I owed it to him for not raping my friend when he had the chance. Literally, he told me he could have done whatever he wanted to her and didn't need to call me at all, and it was the least I could do to thank him. I'll let him know that you don't get a trophy for not raping someone. He cussed me out and went on about how he's a veteran and how dare I and blah blah blah. Hung up and blocked him. Entitled creep. A horrible date with a nice guy named Josh back in 2002. We went hiking on our date. He spent the entire time bragging about how smart he was, smarter than everyone he's ever known, so smart, he knew not to go to a university because community colleges just as good for much less. Everyone who goes to a university is an idiot. Everyone who doesn't do things the exact way Josh does them is a low IQ moron. All of Josh's co-workers are idiots. He was the best Geek Squad employee in history, and Best Buy would fall apart without him. Josh also had a lot of trouble finding a woman, because women often have low IQs and can't keep up with his intellect. Women are dumb, not me though, I'm okay. I could not wait to get home and block the guy. Edit. I met him on Yahoo Personals. He came off okay there, and we arranged a date after a short conversation. Yes, we had AIM and Yahoo Messenger back then, and that's where I blocked him. I don't know where Josh is today, I don't care. I don't care what his side of the story is, he was a twat, and probably still is. No, I wasn't fat. Josh's attitude and horrible personality are 100% Josh's fault, not mine. Oh my god, there was this guy who I would speak to on my commute. He was very awkward, and I made polite small talk, but really I just wanted to read my book. Anyway, one day he comes up to at the train station and says he saw me out with my husband and kids. He then went mental. Accused me of leading him on, called me a slag, threatened to kill himself, broke down crying, begged me to leave my husband for him. Then asked to no one in particular, why does this keep happening to him? Edit. For those of you that read this and thought, she sounds like she could do with a dick pic, let me assure you, I don't. Be better. Hit it off with this one guy while out with friends. He was super sweet, said all the right things, and we were flirting for a while. Finally I went to leave with a friend and got into her passenger seat, was thinking of maybe meeting up with him, until he came to my friend's car, banged on the window with his fists and asked, "Do you wanna fuck?" before I could even roll the window down. I said no, started to roll the window up, and he put his fingers in it so I couldn't. Just stood there with an angry face for a while, called me a bitch, and stomped away. Someone was my friend, and they were around me at parties and stuff. I got super drunk at one, and I was supposed to feel safe there. What he didn't know is that I heard him saying, as he put me into his friend's car, "She's going to be easy tonight," to said friend. The friend was a gentleman, and he laid me in his bed, and then went to get his Nintendo Switch, sat on the floor, and I woke up in time to see him playing, and we became best friends. Thankfully he never tried anything, and I cut the other guy out of my life. Joined a gaming group, slowly started to speak to someone, and make a close friend. 3 months went on, eventually he said he liked me. I said I didn't feel the same. He took it well, and said he was happy to remain friends. We had exchanged Christmas cards before it all went to hell, so he knew where I lived. Then the little quips of intensity started until he was calling me 50 times a day, all day every day, needed to stay in contact. Slowly chats turned to harassment every day, making up stories of things I hadn't done, berating me, and blowing up if I didn't reply within a 30-second window. I tried to cut him off, but then it would make it 10 times worse, to where he was screaming to everyone that he was going to kill himself if I don't speak to him. I was only 18 at the time. It was easier to just keep the peace than to try and get away. Then the gifts started, sending things to my house, turning up at my house multiple times a week, even though he lived 300 miles away. He told everybody a completely different story to what he was actually doing to make himself look better and come out on top. It only stopped when I contacted the police. His entire family still blame me. We bought groceries together for a work event, and he insisted on putting all the groceries into the car because I'm superior to him. I had to nervously laugh my way out of that and say no, of course not, haha. When we got back into the car, he asked if I was in a relationship. I said no, but that I also wasn't looking. I was, but I had a feeling he was going to ask. He said, not even with me? I said, haha, no, not with anyone, sorry. He said I was being really rude by not even accepting a date. When we got back to work, he complained to everyone that I made him do all the shopping and that I then started name calling in the car. He also said I wouldn't stop asking him on a date. Since everyone saw him bring the groceries back in because he had strongly insisted, at least that part looked true, and I was so scared because I didn't know how to sort the whole thing out. Luckily the camera in the car had audio. Edit. I really appreciate all the advice, but this was a few years ago and has been resolved. He was fired soon after for apparently something else. Myself. I grew up thinking that the effort you put into something would equal the outcome. Therefore, when I saw the scene in 10 Things I Hate About You, where Heath Ledger's character sings a song in front of a crowd of people and Julia Stiles swoons, I thought that was what you should do. I did that. It did not work. I mortified my crush in myself. That's just one instance. It took me a long time to figure out that people are not robots or machines, and effort does not equal result. Sometimes people just don't feel that way about you, and that's okay. In fact, just accepting their feelings is way more respectful than heaping adoration or praise on them because your first attempt didn't work. On top of that, just letting go is way better for your mental health. It felt absolutely freeing when I was casually dating someone and she called me to tell me that she had committed to someone else and could no longer date me, and my response was simply, "Thank you for letting me know, I appreciate that, and I wish you the best of luck." I really liked her, but by moving on and realizing it just wasn't meant to be helped me immensely. All good now. My dating life in my 30s was way better with this outlook, and I've been married for 7 years with 2 kids. Nice guys can change, but it comes with recognizing people are not computer programs meant to be hacked. Was my friend for 7 years. 7 years. We supported each other in college, studying. He asked and I set him up with a friend. They dated, broke up. I stayed friends with both. Helped each other move at least 5 times. Endless resume editing. Relationship advice. Introduced him to people as my brother. Maximum contact was an occasional hug. Found myself single near a big birthday while crying about the fresh breakup on the phone with him. He decided that I should try dating him, or at least hook up, and that I owed it to him because he's always been there for me. Excuse me? I had always been there for him too, and I didn't think anything was owed to me. I met him when I was 16. He was 20, while playing League of Legends. We kept getting in the same games, and eventually just added each other and queued up. We lived in the same city, and there was a meetup for other gamers, so we had met in person a couple months later, after playing every day together. I didn't really have a lot of friends, so I did cling to him during these meetups, where we would all go to this internet cafe and get pizza and play League of Legends. He was nice. He would pick me up and drive me to the city or take the train to mine and escort me down and teach me about public transport. I truly saw him as a best friend. Eventually, I guess he got impatient. He would be jealous that I had a crush on a guy in my grade, lamenting about what this boy had that he didn't. He'd bring up all the things he did for me, how he never asked to be repaid or anything back. He wanted us to lose our virginities to each other. He wanted me. He never did anything to me when I was underage, a silver lining I suppose. I drifted myself away from him and he let go. 2 years pass, I'm 18. I see him again when there's a big League of Legends event in our city and he starts talking to me. I was naive, I forgave him. Because how could I hate someone for wanting me? He offers to drive me home. I accept because it's late and I've overstayed in the city talking to him. He's changed, apparently. He's gone to gym, got fit, started seeing girls, and lost his virginity. Good for him, I said. He talks about how he loves it when women are smaller than him, like me, how these Asian girls love how big he is, how he throws them around. I'm uncomfortable because I'm an Asian girl. He asks if I've done anything yet. I guess he thinks that my aversion to dating him before was because I was frigid. I'm nearly home. Nearly there. I text my dad, ask him to meet me in front of the house because I'm scared. He then drops the question if I'd like to see his penis. I refuse. He then asks me to change the song. I look down and yeah, he has it out. He's smiling, thinking that I'd be impressed or overcome with lust. Quite the opposite. I open the car door while it's still moving. He's swearing and stopping the car, and I just get out and tell him to never talk to me again. I'm close to my home, and I see my dear dad standing menacingly in the dark at the end of the driveway. I run to my dad, and he charges down the street to the car. I get back inside, and not long after, my father does too. I'm blocked from that guy on every platform I had him on, except Snapchat, where he later sends me a slurry of abuse before blocking me too. Not much is said, but it's not needed. I love my dad and the day he saved me. He was about twice my age. I was 25ish. He was about 50, close to twice my weight, not in muscle, wasn't active in the slightest, compared to my incredibly active lifestyle at the time, didn't have any hobbies, I didn't find him attractive at all, and we didn't have anything in common, but he got mad that I wouldn't give him a chance because he was a nice guy. Then he spread rumors around the workplace. Yes, we worked together, which was also a factor in my decision to decline pursuing a relationship that I was a mean, cold-hearted bitch tease because I flirted with him but wouldn't go out with him. Oh, P.S. The flirting he was talking about was me saying hi to him when I passed him on the factory floor. I used to daily drive a heavily modified, high horsepower turbo car. One day the turbo decided to eat itself. No worries, it was on the top and front of the engine, so easy to access. Guy was a friend, and only a friend of mine, or so I thought, and offered to help. This is important. He offered, I never asked. So he comes by, helps take the turbo out. We hang out, shoot the shit, drink a beer, or a few, finish up the removal, and he goes on his way. I then send the turbo back for warranty. Turbo comes back maybe a month later. In the meantime, I had just met FH, who happened to be a professional mechanic. When I mentioned I couldn't hang out with him on a weekend day, he asked why, so I explained. He offered to come help with install. I said thank you, and that was that. He came over, helped with install, we grabbed some food after, and then he went home. So eventually Guy asks when we are reinstalling the turbo, and I told him it was already done. He got a little weird, but apparently I missed the whole thing. Then he started digging. Like I wasn't capable of doing the job myself. I am. He eventually kept asking who helped me with the install. I told him FH. His reply? Well, I bet he at least got laid for his hard work. I guess eventually he did, since we've been together for almost 18 years, but not because he helped me do something I could do myself. TLDR, nice guy thought that helping me work on my car was going to get him laid, even though I absolutely didn't need his help. Dude I met at my college's computer lab while I was studying. I used to be in there at all hours of the night pulling all-nighters, and he would come over and study with me. I used to go get coffee from the nearby McDonald's, and he offered to come with me, which I agreed to. He purchased my cup for me, and he was overall pretty nice and attractive, so one day I agreed to go on a date to a 24/7 diner. After, we ended up walking through a dark park, and I was kind of uncomfortable, but I made it out. One of these nights, we were studying, and he suggested we go back to his dorm room to study instead. He kept offering me some of his Adderall, which I politely declined. He wasn't studying, he was laying on his bed, so after a bit, I made an excuse to go back to my dorm room. He offered to walk me. On the way we made a plan to go to the movies, but he wanted to make a deal that I had to drink. On the walk, we were talking and playing around, and somehow I ended up in an entirely too tight headlock. It was dark, we were alone, and I was in a headlock. He eventually released it, and I continued on as if there was no problem. However, that was strike 2, and it was clear what he was trying to do with this movie deal. When I got back, I blocked him and never spoke to him again. Stopped going there to study and avoided him anytime I spotted him. Most baffling was a guy at work who offered me a lift home. When we got to my place, he was all, "Aren't you going to invite me in?" And I was like, "No." Then he told everyone at work I was a cock tease, lol. He helped me move, brought me coffee, and always acted like a great friend until I started dating someone else, and he completely flipped, called me ungrateful, and said I owed him a chance. Classic nice guy behavior, kindness with conditions. Knew this guy in my freshman year of college. Super nice, always willing to go out of his way for people. One night I was at a party with him and my girlfriends, and we all got completely crunk wasted, except for one friend who was designated driver. Turns out, he tried to get me to come home with him, and when my sober friend told him, "No, absolutely not," he went into this whole spiel about how I owed him the 6, and I needed to come home with him. We all got out of there immediately, and I don't even remember any of it. My friend group was out dancing, and we talked to a group of men one of us knew. I met them for maybe 30 seconds in a dark club and went right back to dancing with my friends. One of those men asked a friend for my number, and he stalked me for 3 years. The Norwegian police took him to court, and he was still messaging me from new numbers, telling me we were made for each other until he was sentenced. He works, still does, in the same lab as me. We are both from the same part of the world, and he insisted he could predict the type of person I was. That I like music. I enjoy spicy food. I want to get married and have kids. No shit, so does 99% of the world. Kept insisting we had so much in common. Then he asked me out for a team planning meal, but it would only be him and I. My gut told me to run, and I told that it wouldn't be appropriate, especially if it was meant to be a team thing. He tried to laugh it off, saying I was overthinking it, that it was just friendly. The last straw was when he tried to corner me in the lab, asking personal questions under the guise of just getting to know a colleague. I then told him unequivocally that if he needed to talk, make sure it was an email only. It didn't deter him, and it only stopped when HR got involved at my insistence. He stopped asking questions. But the stares didn't stop. Neither did the weird little comments slipped into casual conversations, like, "I know you better than you think," or "You'll come around." I once went out with a nice guy named Matt, who said he loved soft girls with deep thoughts. Seemed poetic. Big mistake. On our date, he took me to this weird coffee shop with no menu, because real connoisseurs know what to ask for. He then ordered for me without asking because he could tell what kind of girl I was. He kept calling me kitten the entire time. I had never given him a nickname to use. He asked if I liked guys who cry, and when I said, sure, I think it's healthy, he launched into a rant about how women say they want sensitivity, but always go for jerks. Realizing that I was being one, despite my best intentions. I doubt that I was the worst version of a nice guy that any of the women in my life were forced to deal with, and my behavior was born more out of ignorance than selfishness or malice. But it still hurts, both emotionally and like physically, on some weird level, to remember my actions and the impact they had on people who are loudly asserted that I cared about. My roommates and I were having a house party one evening with maybe 40 or so friends. This one gal gets really drunk, so we put her in my bedroom and closed the door, but we checked on her periodically. When I went to check on her, one guy we knew was in bed with her trying to convince her to wake up to sleep with him. He was actually pretty nice guy, and I liked chatting and hanging with him. But I told him to get the F out of the room and my house right now in a very serious tone. He promptly left, and that was the end of it. He eventually married another friend and had kids, and seems to have had a happy life together. Very bizarre and unexpected. Glad the gal was safe though. That's all folks. Thank you for watching. If you like videos like this one, why not like and subscribe for more. Have a nice evening. Tell your friends about me.